Fantasy Psychos, welcome to Dangle Bet Selly. Dangle Bet Selly is brought to you by the FTN Network, Game Plus Network, and the awesome people over at Anthem Sports and Points Bet Canada. Of course, it's Point Bets Canada because we're talking hockey. Got a really cool guest. I mean, I'm sure if you guys have been following along on social media, we got Steve Dangle from the SDPN Network. Very good buddy of mine. Been watching their pods for tons of years, almost from the very start. I wasn't a YouTube guy, but when they had a podcast, they opened a podcast, I started following right along. He's crazy like us, loves hockey like us, and unfortunately for him, he's very passionate about the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is going to be a cool show, guys. I mean, the Stanley Cup playoffs, if anyone's being honest, if you're being truly honest and you filled out one bracket and you had Florida, Carolina, Dallas, and Vegas in the Final Four, then you let me know. And I'm going to say that you're a liar. If you're somebody that filled out 50 of these things, 50 of these brackets, you may have came to this. But I don't imagine anybody that filled out one or two of them had these four. I'm not saying it's bad. I think they're four excellent teams. These are teams that me and Chris have been talking about literally all year. Florida Panthers are a team that we've loved for a long time. Obviously, Carolina are making me eat my words. Rob Brindamore is making me eat my words. I thought that style of play would burn them out, but they seem to be hitting their stride at the right time. They're missing three of their top goal scorers, and they're scoring like crazy, scoring from the back end, which we thought was dead in the NHL, which is a really cool thing. I want Brindamore to win a Stanley Cup as a coach. I think he's a good coach. I just think that style of hockey can be exhausting. Those two teams are just going to forecheck the hell out of each other. It's going to be amazing to watch. On the Dallas and Vegas side, two super deep teams that are loaded with good personnel up and down the lineup. Obviously, me and Steve are going to dive into these, and we're going to get what he thinks. I got a list of some cool bets for today or for Thursday and for the series. Noticing that there's a bunch of lunatics in the chat. We got Troy, we got Adam, we got Brazzies, not really sure. We got John Marchese, we got Jordan. All the usual suspects. I can't thank you guys enough. Doing this show solo is difficult. As you can tell by my voice, it is not 100%. I'm going for surgery next Thursday. So I will be out next Thursday because I have to have another surgery on my throat. So you guys can hear me talk about hockey and how terrible I am at sports betting. It's been a wild year. I mean, the reality is what I was saying about the brackets earlier. It almost makes no sense that we're here, that we're at this point, and these are the final four teams. I think it's a good thing for the NHL. A lot of people that don't support these teams on social media, and let's remember, boys, social media, not the real world, not really what's going on. There's 10 or 12 people screaming from the mountaintops that this is terrible for hockey and nobody's going to watch the finals and blah, 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 blah. This is what the league needs more of this. Really successful teams like Toronto and New York and LA and these big market teams that sell out every game, them going to the Stanley Cup is not increasing their viewership. People are watching the Toronto Maple Leafs regardless. When Jared Bohl was an elite member of the Toronto Maple Leafs, people were still buying $1 million tickets and selling out the Air Canada Center. But what we need is markets like Florida. And look, I love the team of Florida. I love Matthew Tkachuk. That's been no secret. I love Sam Reinhart. I love Sam Bennett. The Bobrovsky story is really cool. Everyone, including me, said that he was done. He was cooked. He's a $10 million lead weight dragging the Florida Panthers to the bottom of the ocean. But here we are. He might be right now, performance-wise, the best goalie in the NHL. And it's really cool to see. But having a team like Florida that, if we're being honest, can't sell out a regular season game. You watch a game on a Wednesday, and it looks like there's 55 people there. I know that there's several thousand, and it's a humongous arena, but the Florida Panthers have not been good historically. They've been pretty good for the last couple of years. Obviously, last year winning the President's Trophy is a big deal. They scraped and clawed their way into the playoffs, but let's look at what they've done. They've eliminated a record-setting team in the Boston Bruins. We may never see a regular season team as good as we saw the Boston Bruins this year, and they eliminated them. It took them 7 games, but they did it. And the Toronto Maple Leafs, all jokes aside, and we're going to get into it with Steve big time, this is an elite team in the NHL, was at the top of the standings for almost the entire year. And the Florida Panthers worked them over pretty bad. I mean, I'm a Maple Leafs fan. I have been since I was a little kid. And if I'm being completely honest, they worked them over pretty bad. All right. So I guess Steve's here. We're going to bring him in. Steve Dangle is a buddy of mine, a hockey fanatic. He is a co-owner, co-host, co-president. I don't know what his official title is of the FTN Network. He's done a ton of cool stuff for people in hockey media. He's a self-made man. He took his passion for this sport and his passion for sharing the love of his sport, locked himself in his basement as a child and screamed into a camera. And here we are, man. Welcome, man. Really cool to have you.
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks you. And it's CEO.
I also run a business. It's Showtime Enterprises, LLC. And I am the sole employee and the president. And that's fun.
Isn't that a great moment? Like when it's actually like easier than you think to be CEO or president.
Yeah. If I'm doing it, anyone can do it.
Well, like you go to the bank or wherever and register your business and they're like, what's your title? And you can make yourself emperor if you really want.
Yeah. And maybe I will, because that sounds awesome.
Haven't ruled it out.
Not a lot of emperors left in the world today, buddy.
No.
The truth is like we're friends, but I think what you're doing with the STPN network is super cool. It's a really cool thing. It's self-made, which is special. And anybody that's run their own business or taken that leap knows it's stressful and it's a lot of work. And you guys are killing it. And what I think it's not overlooked, but I don't think people are noticing it enough, is that you've created all these opportunities for all these other people, right? People that were like you, people that didn't have a platform, and maybe they're making content or they want to make content, but they don't have the avenue. And you've opened that up, you and Adam and Jesse. And dude, it's super cool, man. And I want to be on every one of them. I think I've been on 4 of the game over ones already. So every time there's a new one, I'm going to get on it. I'm going to be the first person to appear on all of them.
I've seen. Yeah, we need a game over Nashville, and then
I mean, there's lunatics here. There's lunatics in every market, right? But it's something that's definitely got to happen.
Yeah, it's really cool. And like, again, like another weird thing about sort of being in charge, and we started this podcast network is, every step of the way, Adam, Jesse, and I will have a conversation and we'll be like, hey, we should have this. Who do we ask about that? And then we're like, oh, it's us.
It's us.
So like we wanted to get, full-time employees benefits, and it's hard enough. You can Google it, you can figure it out eventually, and you can just get your employees benefits. Should we give this guy a raise? Yeah, let's give him a raise. Like you can just sort of do that. And I'm happy.
Well, you're the emperor.
I'm the emperor. I'm happy to have built this platform along with Adam and Jesse over the years, and let other people use it. Like we had hundreds of people apply for these game overs. I bet. Toronto, Montreal. It's all the Canadian markets right now.
Of course.
I assume that'll change in, I don't know when. That's another thing. You learn not to make promises you can't keep, but we're going to be expanding to the States, and we've expanded into basketball, expanded into Formula One as well. But obviously puck is our biggest thing.
Yeah, that's what's driving the ship. You do still live and reside in Canada.
Yep.
I mean, there's definitely pockets here. I live in Nashville, as you know, and in no way, shape, or form is this a hockey crazed city, but it has its own spot, and it's carved out, and it's real, and it's a really cool scene actually to be part of. And you guys are coming down, I believe, for the draft, and it should be great. I know that tons of pro players have moved here, even guys that didn't play here. Bobby Ryan is a buddy of mine that lives here. Ryan Smith lives here full time. There's tons of ex players that live in Nashville, and they're running pro camps, and they're running children's programs, and Marty Erat and JT Dumont and some guys opened up like a training facility that has 2 sheets of ice, and there's rec leagues. It's really cool, man. It's growing. We're going to get into the playoffs, right? We're going to get into the playoffs. I'm going to imagine that your bracket looks similar to my bracket.
Oof.
Do you, dude? And I was saying this to open the show. There's my bracket. The only team I have right at this point is Dallas. So
mine's actually even worse because I had Oilers Bruins.
even worse. And I think a lot of people's had. I'm pretty sure Chris Meany, the co-host on the show, yep, there it is. He that's who he had, Oilers Bruins. And I think people that don't fill out 70 of these, if they're being honest, if they filled out one that they really thought was going to happen, there's nobody that had these 4 teams. Nobody. Not even people that are fans of Florida thought they were going to be here.
So I talked to a guy who used to be an NHL executive. He's not anymore. And, we were just having a conversation about like how ridiculously unpredictable these playoffs have been. He went 8 for 8 in the first round.
Holy.
He predicted Colorado would lose to Seattle. He predicted the Leafs would end their drought, and he predicted the Panthers would beat the Bruins. I got to check up with him on his second round, he did predict the Panthers would sweep the Leafs. He was 1 game off there, but he had the winner.
You hate his guts for saying that out loud.
I absolutely. Oh, well, the second you find out he's 8 for 8 and then they haven't even played game 1 and he's like, oh yeah, they're dead. Like it's not encouraging. Not encouraging.
The percentage is low. Other than that person, there may be nobody else in the world. Look, I wanted to say Seattle. I love the story of this team. I love how it's constructed. I love that Daniel Sprong had 22 goals and plays 8 minutes a night. I love that they got Ellie Tollivan, even though secretly I was so mad that the Predators let him go for nothing. But McCann with the Leafs. I mean, the story goes on and on, right? These teams are constructed by players that other teams threw away. And I can remember having a discussion with Chris after the expansion draft. I was like, this is the team that they put together. Like, I love Yanni Gourde. I will move to Seattle and live in a studio apartment with him if he allows it. I have 2 of his jerseys, but he was their best player coming out of the expansion draft. And it almost made me sick to my stomach thinking about how poor it was. And here I am eating my words. I mean, the team is incredible. They could have won that game last night. They could be playing in the semifinals. They could have played for the Stanley Cup. That's how good and how consistent they were. Just your thoughts on look, we're not going to poke the bear. We know that you're sad about the Maple Leafs. Me and you are in a chat together with Jesse and Adam, and I really believed for real that this was the year that it was going to happen, but they're out. I'd love to get your thoughts on that, but just the playoffs in general, what you're feeling.
Oh man, it's been a super weird playoff because at least Game 7 was tight yesterday, but even if a series is tight, like it goes 6 or 7 games this year, it's been a lot of blowouts. Like you saw in the Leafs Tampa series, that was wild. The Leafs lose 7-3, then win 7-2. A lot of those games were tight, but Dallas has played in a lot of blowouts, and there were nights where you're like, oh man, there's no chance they can advance. And Seattle's been involved in a lot of blowouts. Oh, there's just no chance. Edmonton, I mean, every game has the potential to be a blowout for or against. So it's been very unpredictable this year.
Very unpredictable. And this is it's a betting based show, and I can tell you that it's not going well for me. I know from listening to the pod that you are $2 Steve, which I love. I also gamble the same way as you. I'm a coward, and I just can't risk money of something that I have no control over. and I don't know if it's a coward or I'm a control freak or what the real reason is.
Smart.
I mean, I guess when you break it all the way down, there's a thin line between courage and stupidity, right?
Yeah.
The truth is I do make bets, but most of them are small. I've got this tradition at the start of the year. Before the season starts, I pick a day. I drink heavily from the start of the morning, and then around 6 or 7 o'clock, I make a bunch of future bets of who I think will play for and win the Stanley Cup. I was very heavy into Calgary this year.
Oh,
I can tell you that did not go well. I looked at that trade with Matthew Tkachuk going to Florida. I love him as a player. I have from day one. I loved his dad. I love his brother. I love watching them play hockey. I wouldn't want to play against them, and that's part of the reason I love watching them play. But he's just an amazing player. But I believed with Huberdeau, who I thought was one of, if not the best left winger in the league, and Mackenzie Weegar going to what I thought was maybe the deepest and fullest defense core. And they had this amazing goaltender, Jacob Markstrom, that Calgary was undoubtedly walking into the playoffs very easily because of the year they had before.
They should have.
But more importantly, because of how they were comprised, and Daryl Sutter, like him or not, has up until this year been a very good coach.
Yep.
And they just crumbled and fell apart and just couldn't. I mean, in the end, it just couldn't get a save, right? But I invite you to do this tradition with me. And look, I did bet on Calgary, but I also bet on Dallas. So I still got Dallas alive. I also bet heavily on Edmonton. What are some of the bets that you've made this year that either one, were good, two, were bad, or three, you believe them to be good, but ended up being very bad in the end, like my Calgary one?
I thought, so I was mad about the Canucks going on a late season run because I bet on them to get Connor Bedard. And obviously that's not going to happen. Sheldon Keefe for Coach of the Year. Whoops. That one's not going to hit. I think he might hit the bricks. But I did get a Minute Madness on Sports Interaction. That's where you can bet on it just churns out a random minute in a game. Yeah. And if there's a goal in that minute, you win. And it's something like 50-1. And it was a Leaf game against Minnesota, and it was a Minnesota goal, and they reviewed it. So I'm sitting there like, I don't want my team to get scored on, but I could win $50 here off of two. Right. Or two or one or whatever. I think I put $1, Steve, even a bigger coward there. And I'm sitting there like, no, but I want the money. And then the Leafs ended up winning as well. So I got to have my cake and eat it too.
Best of both worlds.
Beautiful stuff.
And I also think, like, look, I've been a Maple Leafs fan since I was 3 years old. I'm a Predators fan. I live in Nashville. I do a ton of stuff with the team. But the reality is I'm an NHL fan, and I love all players and all teams, some less than others, but I'm a lunatic when it comes to this stuff. And if I was betting on everything that I liked, I would be unemployed. I would be in bankruptcy, right? I mean, it's just, I believe, maybe I'm too positive. I believe too much. And over the time, I mean, the wrestling thing is I'm the world-class maniac. I'm this crazy person. And also in the betting world, I bet on goal scoring, which is maybe the hardest thing to predict. Yeah. Stuff like shots on goal and points. Obviously, that's not as lucrative as betting on goal scoring, but goal scoring in the NHL is, it's almost impossible to bet on when people are going to score, how they're going to score. The minute, picking a minute, now you're really setting yourself up for failure. But that's how you win, right? Like, if you want to win real money, that's how you make it. If you want to accumulate small amounts over time, which is the smart thing to do. Listen, Las Vegas doesn't look like Las Vegas because people win at gambling.
Yeah, well, exactly. And so here's the other side of that. You can pick as many minutes as you want. So it was game 1, Oilers Vegas. I picked 8 different minutes. And they were pretty strong minutes. There were 11 goals in that game. Right. So it was as high scoring as I thought it would be. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't hit a single one.
Yeah.
I didn't hit a
that's how it
single
goes.
one. That's how it
Yeah.
goes.
I had this thing this year, and I'm going to continue it because it's fun. My favorite number is 8. It's the number I wore in hockey. It's the number I wore in rugby. It means a lot of things to me, but it's just it's my favorite number. And so I did this 8-way parlay. I mean, if you know a little bit about gambling, parlay is you add things together, and all of those things have to hit for you to get paid.
Wow.
So I picked 8 guys to score, and I did it maybe 70 times this year, 60 times this year, and more than 25 times I was one guy away from hitting. And it's soul crushing, right? And here's the crazy thing about it, and the crazy thing about sports gambling. It was never the person that I was like, ooh, do I put this guy in it? It was always the guy like Jason Robertson scored 8 goals in the past 6 games.
Yeah.
For sure he's going to score again tonight. They're playing Phoenix. Of course he's going to score, and he doesn't score. But someone else like Esther Lindell, or I pick some weird guy that I have a gut feeling on, he scores. But the guy that I think for sure is not going to score doesn't score. I want to talk about the series going forward. Florida, Carolina. How do you see this? I mean, it's hard to cheer for Florida, right? Because they just eliminated your team. But for me, like I'm open to it. I believe Florida wins this series. And I don't know if that's because they beat the Leafs, but I just think like they're just so difficult to play against. It's so opportunistic.
No, I like 2 Panthers. I like Matthew Tkachuk out of respect, and I like Zach Dalpe because he follows me on Instagram. That's a grand total.
This is a good list.
Yeah, 2 Florida Panthers. I'm not gonna lie. I got a ton of respect for the Carolina Hurricanes and the team they built. I could easily see them winning the cup. I have the Panthers beating them because it's kind of just another version of the 2 teams that they've already played. 2 teams with a little bit of grit who survive by having the puck. The Bruins have the puck more than you, and the Florida Panthers go, great, that's awesome. And they bang and smash until they get you to make a mistake. Same thing with the Leafs. And Brent Burns has had such a good playoff for Carolina, and he's a tough nut. So I don't think Florida's going to soften him up necessarily, but I do think, he maybe lacks the speed a little bit to avoid the mistakes, the awkward positions that Florida's going to force him into. Yeah. You get a little bit of goaltending. It's just hard to see that train slowing down right now.
Yeah, I think 2 teams that kind of want to play similarly, right? I think Carolina was 1, and I think Florida was definitely in the top 5 of teams that play without the puck. And I mean, obviously, this offseason, there's going to be a ton of this, right? A ton of talk about, is that the way to play? Where, I think the Detroit Red Wings, the dynasty Detroit Red Wings changed the game where it was this before. And then the Red Wings said, no, it's better if you just have the puck rather than shooting it in and giving it away. We'll just circle back and pass it and we'll enter the zone another way. If we have the puck, they can't score on us. And for years, that's how a lot of teams played. I think the LA Kings, when Daryl Sutter was there and they had that miracle run, I think it came down to Jonathan Quick, basically going nuclear and just becoming the best goalie in the league for 3 or 4 months. And that's how they won the cup. But they were a team that didn't play with the puck a lot. But all the teams over the last decade that have been successful, especially in the regular season, have played with the puck. And now we're going to see these 2 teams that barely play with the puck, right? I mean, Carolina led the league in dump-ins, and it's not even close. And that's theory surprising. On them, it's not close. Wow. It's not close. Wow. They lead the game. They lead the league in that by a long shot. And my theory was that's an exhausting way to play, and not everybody's Rob Brind'Amour, right? Like he's probably in better shape than half of the guys that play, and that's no strike against them. That you can look at him in a suit and like the dude will eat you for breakfast.
He's a triangle.
He's a triangle. He is a very, very rugged triangle. And
I look just like him.
Me too. That's the look I'm going for, and fairly importantly because I love pizza and beer. But the truth is I think that you can't play that way unless you're wired a certain way. I mean, I don't know if Aho or X, Y, and Z, the last couple of years, it seems like they got to the second and third round and ran out of steam. and it doesn't look that way this year. It's going to be a super fascinating series. You pick Florida. I pick Florida to win as well, but I think it's going to go deep, and it's going to be really interesting to see who adjusts, right? Because they both play a very similar style. And I think getting Teravainen back, which isn't a guarantee, but I guess they're saying that he's close to coming back, could be good for them. For me, it was like you lost Pacioretty, you lost your top goal scorer in Svechnikov. You already struggled to score goals to begin with, and you lost your two best scorers. I just thought that there was just no way. And here they are making me eat my words. Going to be a super interesting series. Okay, Vegas, Dallas.
Oh, what a bloodbath!
I think this is going to be this. It's going to be awesome.
So it's going to be awesome hockey, and I posted a stat yesterday that I think is really interesting for anyone who said the Bubble Cup doesn't count or the Bubble NBA Championship doesn't count.
Maybe the hardest one to win ever.
Oh, seriously. And 3 of the 4 conference finals from the NBA and the NHL are repeated in 2023. Both of them in the NBA, and Dallas Vegas was one of the conference finals in the 2020 bubble. Now, Dallas wiped the floor with Vegas. I couldn't believe it. I thought that series was going to be a lot more competitive.
Vegas disappeared, right? That's that series.
And they've done that a few times in the playoffs in recent years since that trip to the Cup final. Oh, man, they got a nastiness to them that I just don't think I think they're built different this year. Pietrangelo has a different mindset. And his mindset might be that he's lost his mind, but it only got him suspended to 1 game. And, you talk about deadline pickups that weren't necessarily, expensive or swinging for the fensive. They were just a perfect match for your team. Ivan Barbashev, what an unreal acquisition for Vegas. It's actually 2 teams who I think made great cheap acquisitions. Like Dodonov is perfect for Dallas. Max Domi is perfect for Dallas. 2 teams who can play fun. They can play heavy. Jake Ottinger is going to be a busy bee. I really like Dallas in that goalie matchup, even though Aiden Hill's been good. It's a coin flip for me, but I think I give it to Vegas, but I'm just not sure.
Yeah, I'm very unsure of this too. Vegas, I feel like they've been good all year, and nobody's been picking them. I don't know if that's because of Mark Stone being injured. I don't know. Aiden Hill, he's like their 3rd or 4th goalie. The Brossoit story was awesome, and you just got in for the guy. Been a backup most of his life. He goes on this unreal run. Vegas is in the playoffs. He beats the guy that he used to back up, and he outplays Connor Hellebuck, who's nominated for the Vezina Trophy, no doubt. And then just this weird pushing across and hurts himself. It sucks, It sucks for him. The Aiden Hill story. I didn't see this coming, but I've liked Aiden Hill since he played in Phoenix. I'm in this crazy lunatic salary cap fantasy league where they use real salaries, and I've had Aiden Hill on my team since he was a rookie. So I'm secretly cheering for. I'm on. You
never sold, eh? Good for you.
I held on. Well, because he's the money, right? Is just part of it is all the stuff you read. He's really tall. He's really athletic. He's very calm in his movements. This stuff because I read and consume as much hockey as possible because I'm unemployed and I can do whatever I want. And my choice is that I make myself insane by reading every piece of information available to me. But you got to give it to Ottinger. Ottinger's been unreal. He's starting in the playoffs last year, has turned himself into one of the premier goalies in the league, right? He's one of the guys that you can count on. And when he's on, Dallas is almost unbeatable. When he's on, he's had a couple hiccups, right? There was a stat there said yesterday. Very few goalies come out in the games ever after being pulled twice in the series and win. So that was a big win for Dallas, big win for Ottinger. I think the Stars win this, but I think it goes 7. I think it's going to be the series of the playoffs. I think it's going to be amazing.
As I said, Vegas, I realized we recorded our series previews yesterday, and I'm trying to remember who I picked, and I'm pretty sure I picked Dallas. And I've already,
tough, man.
It's going 7. It's going 7. It's so.
I hope so. That's all I hope for at this point. I want Dallas to win the Stanley Cup, because then my drunk bets from the start of the year will prove. Yeah, right. Labatt Blue cheers it up. It proves to be right, and that way I can continue. I'm going to continue the tradition anyways because it's fun. But then there will be science behind my techniques.
Yes.
So a couple of things here. I always pick goal scorers. Thursday, Florida, I'm going Kachuk and Verhaeghe. Carolina side, I'm going Necas and Aho. Necas is one of those weird players, right? Like, I mean, he's this big body, skates like the wind, shoots the puck like a complete psychopath. And then in the regular season, you're expecting huge things. Not that he's a bad player, but he's just super inconsistent and not the player that you see with your eyes. Like, your eyes tells you this is a superstar level player, but he never has the stats to back it up. Then the playoffs start and he turns into another person. He's been really good for them. Aho, in my opinion, I mean, I don't know if he's a superstar, but he's definitely a star player in the NHL. So creative with the puck. Dallas, look at someone earlier in the chat said the fact that Dallas is in this position and Robertson has been goal scoring wise almost invisible, right? Like, I mean, this is a guy that shot the lights out all year. I mean, every time he played, he was one of the guys. If he played, didn't matter the odds, I bet on him to score. And 90% of the time he rewarded me, right? Exactly. I mean, he's an unreal player. I know, I mean, Nick Robertson in Toronto, I think, you know, hoping for him to get healthy and come back next year. The fact that Dallas is here without him doing a whole lot is pretty remarkable. I think he scores, and I think he's going to be offensively basically the pivoting point for Dallas Stars in this series. If he scores, I think Dallas is going to be very difficult to beat. Jamie Benn, no secret, I've loved him forever. Mean, physical, resurgent here, right? I mean, a lot of people were saying, "Oh man, Jamie Benn is done." Like, I mean, he's never going to win the Hart Trophy again, or he's never going to do that again. But is a very good player for them. Eichel, great story to see him playing in his first playoffs, which is almost insane to say, right? Like, a guy that's drafted that high.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Connor McDavid, surely would have been the first overall pick. And you just forget how long he was hurt and how long he played in Buffalo. It sucks. Buffalo getting good now, which is good for the league. I got him and Stevenson. Stevenson's having an unreal playoffs. I got a couple interesting bets here, and then I'm going to go to you and tell me if you've seen anything interesting or anything that you might bet on for this round of the playoffs. I got on Thursday, I got Florida and Dallas. If you join those together in a parlay, it's plus 373 to win the series. So you could bet on both of those teams to win the series. It gives you 373. Pavelski to lead the series in points. That's at plus on DraftKings. It's plus 1,000. So FTN has this really cool thing called the prop shop. It's free. Anybody can use it. You can put in what you're trying to bet, and it will give you the best odds out of all of the draft apps. I live in communist Tennessee, so I'm not allowed to use certain apps. I can really only use DraftKings and a few others. So I'm giving you DraftKings odds. I mean, I know that you guys got a sponsor that you guys work with, and I'm sure they give great stuff too. I've also got Bennett for the most points in the series at plus 220, 2,200. Like, I mean, Bennett's had an unbelievable playoffs. He's another player that I really like. I look at, he hurt Matthew Nyes. That should have been a penalty for sure. Likely should have been a suspension.
Ifs and buts.
Ifs and buts. Lots of things happen when you're lunatic competitors playing against each other. Just the way it goes. It sucks. I love Matthew Nyes. I think he's proven that he belongs, and I can't wait to see what he does next year. And then another crazy bet. Most goals in the series, Jason Robertson plus 650. You would never have got that.
Wow.
Plus 650. So I'm not saying I'm going to do a bunch of money, but I'm not going to do $2. I'm going to go bigger on that one because I believe that he will lead that series in goals.
Wow. So that's great value.
Yeah. Yeah. So anything that you're looking at, like, you're like me, like I'm not a crazy gambler. I do this show Tuesdays and Thursdays. I love it, right? Like, I mean, I can be watching a game that I have no real vested interest in, and it can make you a crazy person because, like, you know, what I mean, like during that minute, you're screaming at the TV, right? And then they replay the goal, and it's allowed, and you celebrate. Your $1 just turned into $5, and you're up, and everything's great. But is there any bets that you're looking at that you could go after?
There's a couple guys who probably went underappreciated. One because he was a fourth liner all year, the other because he was a rookie, but they both won the series for their team. Wyatt Johnston has been my guy since the beginning of the playoffs. I had him as a sleeper pick, and he's been killing it for me. And then why not go with Nick Cousins? I mean, he's not coming off that line. At least it doesn't look like it. Surely he'll get in on the action if Bennett's going to have a good night, if Kachuk is going to have a good night. Anthony Duclair, I saw as a guy who was heating up against the Leafs. I don't know how many points he ended up getting in the series. I don't think it was many, but he was really getting a lot of chances.
Yeah, starting to really skate again.
Yeah, starting to really skate again. I'll never, ever bet against Alex Pietrangelo. I think he's probably the best player on Vegas, which is a pretty stacked team. And if you can find value in betting on one of Marchessault or Barbashev for Vegas, I think that could be good. Marchessault was invisible in the first round, at least on the score sheet.
Invisible most of the year.
Yeah, murderer on this in the second round. So if you don't want to go with him because you're not going to get the greatest value, Barbashev, I think, would be a great pick.
Yeah, I would imagine Marchessault, the value because of his name and who he's been before. Barbashev might be the best pickup at the deadline, right? I mean, it might be.
So good.
Someone in Vegas, oh man, it may be Jesse Granger. I can't remember who said it, but I have in my mind that he's this big guy. And they're like, no, like, then I saw him when we drafted him and he walked into the arena without his equipment on, and he's like 5'11" and like 175 pounds. I was like, what? That can't be, right? And then I looked up his hockey DB, and he's not a big guy, but he just plays like a lunatic. Yeah, so physical. It's cool to see him play on that top line, and I like that when you get two of these offensive guys and a guy that has physicality, has speed, gets in the forecheck, retrieves pucks. Like he's like an exotic Zach Hyman kind of player, right? It's if that could be a thing. I think it's important to have those guys. Nick Cousins, the guys that played in Nashville, he's a guy that can do everything. He's not great at any one thing, but he's proving in this playoffs, and he's proven to me in almost every place he's been, he's a really, really effective player. He's a bastard, he's hard to play against. Good skater, good shot, good vision, good at carrying the puck, good at retrieving the puck. Not the best at any one of those things, but a very good player. And if he wasn't, he wouldn't be playing on that line, right? Like, right. I mean, it's not a mistake. Reason that line is effective because those three parts work really well. I love that call from you. He scores the goal. Gudas holds the stick. Yarncroc is a guy that I've loved forever. Chris Meany believes, other than his family, I'm the only person that owns a Yarncroc Toronto Maple Leafs jersey.
Maybe.
And I do.
Love that.
So, yeah, I love him as a player. He's Swiss, and saying that he's a Swiss Army knife just makes sense to me in my brain.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, Maple Leafs. What, in your opinion, what goes on? I mean, the reality is we're all just guessing because we don't know, right?
Yep.
The locker cleanout day, media availability, which was a wild ride. What do you feel happens? Something's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, listen, no one, I think, is going to be happy with the moves that they make on the day that it happens, and that's a good sign. I remember the reaction here when the Raptors got Kawhi. Everyone hated it. Right. Everyone hated it. The basketball hardcores, like people who watch all the other teams as well, they were more on the side of it. But Raptors fans hated it because they loved DeMar and he was a fan favorite. And let me tell you, if or when they trade Mitch Marner, because I think he's most likely. Ooh, are people gonna hate it? And
Yeah.
that's a near impossible trade to win on paper. I just don't think he can. He was your best player this year, or most consistent, certainly healthiest, I guess. 99 points. He was so good in the first round, even. But he makes nearly $11 million, and his no move kicks in, or no trade, whichever it is, kicks in July 1st.
That's the pivot point, right? They don't want to get stuck.
You don't want to get stuck. And like, I've seen people say, oh, well, you could get a lot for Nylander because he has good value. You're right, but the fact that he's good value is the reason why you keep him. Like, even if you trade one of the big contract guys, you're still going to be right up against it in terms of the cap. If you want to replace Nylander, you're gonna spend at least that much to replace him. I think it's got to be one of we all say core four. It's the big three, right? It's only like the gap between Nylander and the next highest paid forward is over $3 million. Like, it's nearly $4 million, right?
It's another very good player.
Yes, exactly. Like, how many of the guys on the Panthers make in and around that, right? So to me,
Seattle, nobody makes over 5 million in Seattle. No one.
That's crazy, right? So
there's the recipe.
It's not going to be Austin. It can't be John. It's got to be Mitch, and that's going to be a really, really uncomfortable day. What do the Leafs get? Zero clue. You'd hope a right-handed defenseman, but beyond that, no idea.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild ride. Being a Maple Leafs fan, we've been a Maple Leafs fans for almost the same amount of time. You obviously live in the area, have a career because of it, wrote a book because of it, and are much more invested than me. But I don't know how much more I can take. To be honest, it's people I know have a really prominent wrestling writer. This guy Sean Ross Sapp. Became a Maple Leafs. He picked a hockey team this year. He picked the Maple Leafs. And I tried to talk him off the ledge, but he wouldn't listen to me. And he's got several years to figure this out, to understand that this is a labor of love. And I'm still going to support him, but man, oh man, they do not make it easy, man.
It's not digging at me like in years past, because in years past, it was just sort of, all right, we're sticking to this plan, and we're going to see if it works. And, you lose and you change nothing, nothing of consequence anyway. Right. And you're like, all right, let's see if it works.
Same guys. Let's do it again.
This year, we know that's not going to happen. Right. So it'll be an exciting offseason no matter what. It's fun to watch a new team grow. You know what I mean? So no matter how good or bad they are in October, we know they won't be the same in November and December, right? So I think it'll finally be something new for Leaf fans beyond simply hoping they're able to do it. I think winning the series rather than make Leaf fans fat and happy actually gave us like a bloodlust for winning. And winning a series, I think, made us realize how not even close winning one series is to winning the Stanley Cup. That they won 3 games out of the 16 that they needed last year. They won 5 this year. Like, whoop-de-doo. You need to make significant changes, and it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be unpredictable. And I think all those add up to a good summer for guys like us.
Yeah, I believe that to be right. I liken it to the 8 is my lucky number. If I played roulette, which I do not, if I went to Vegas and played roulette, I would want to put money on black 8 every time I played. That is not a winning strategy. To bet on the same thing when it loses 90% of the time over and over is a fool's errand. And you said
unless it is,
man. Yes, it is. And we've been doing this for how long? And supporting the team and through the brutal years with centerpiece Jared Bowl and other superstars like I still supported the event, and was a fun watch this year, but something's got to change. Dude, I know you got a jet. You've been super. I appreciate your time, man. This has been a fun chat. Love to have you and Jesse and Adam back on. I'm pumped for you guys to be here. We'll definitely hang out. Hopefully you guys will live at my house, and I'll make my wife live in a hotel, and we'll get drunk and make future bets for next season.
Hell yeah. Let's do it. What
Awesome,
are we doing?
man.
Whiskey or beers?
Well, I mean, I barely ever drink anymore, but I have a full bar downstairs. So sky's the limit. Whatever you guys want, I have it available downstairs. If there's anything you want to plug, man, here at the end, please. I mean, most of these people, they're lunatics. They know who you are. They know what you do. But please get the word out. I think you guys are doing beautiful things. And I'm proud to say that I'm a buddy of yours, and proud to say that I'm an original listener from way back in the day.
You definitely are. You're not making that up. You've been listening since like 2013, 2014. Happy to be your buddy too. I would just say for everyone to give us a shot. And by us, I mean the entirety of STPN, not just the Steve Dangle podcast. We have the Chris Johnston show,
Which is great. He's the best.
Hockey Insider. He's about to be a busy bee, like I said. There's a real good shot that if there's Leafs news, he'll be first on it. We have Agent Provocateur with Alan Walsh, and he gives you a real inside look at how things go. And he's had some very high profile guests on. He had Max Pacioretty. He had Scotty Bowman on, and you never know when a celebrity guest is going to come on as well. Max Weinberg, for example, from the E Street Band. All the game overs, our basketball show, our F1 show, Noxie and Cax do a women's hockey show. We just have so much. Drew and Stu, if you want to talk a little bit more betting, we got it all, man. SDPN Sportsnet. Oh my God, I'm so programmed to say the Sportsnet YouTube channel. SDPN YouTube channel. Go there. We're on Spotify for everything as well. Apple Music for everything as well. Is that enough of a plug for you?
Dude, the time is yours. You've been gracious. And like I said, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, man. I mean, what you guys are doing is super special. It's beautiful, and I love to support it, and everyone else should too. So like and subscribe and do those things, because it makes a difference, guys. That's how this show exists. That's how his life exists. So do those things, because Steve's a good dude, and he's doing amazing things. Appreciate you, buddy. I'll be talking to you soon.
For sure, man. I'll see you soon.
All right, guys. Steve Dangle, diehard Maple Leafs fan, awesome guy, knowledgeable about hockey. He loves it like we do. I would say that Steve, as his nickname on the show, is $2 Steve. Not exactly a gambler, but tons of cool information there. I want to thank you guys, everybody in the chat. I'm not as good at looking in two places at once as Chris is. But guys, listen, John, Brazis, I think, Adam, Troy, Jordan, everybody, Ryan, everybody that was in the show today. Appreciate you guys. You can hit up in the comments. You can send me a direct message anywhere, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, any of those things. Let me know what you're thinking, what you're betting on. You guys are all super sharp. Iron sharpens iron. This has been Eric Young for Dangle Bets Helly on the FTN Network, Game Plus Network, and sponsored by PointsBet Canada. We'll see you guys on Thursday.
Hi, I'm Chris from Greenwood, and this is My Nova Scotia. Enjoy amazing live music around Halifax at the TV Halifax Jazz Festival, July 8th to the 16th. From July 17th to the 24th, it's the Halifax Pride Festival. And if you're like me, you can never get enough golf. It's the best way to see some of Nova Scotia's most beautiful scenery. Visit novascotia.com to plan your vacation. Our greens are awesome. So when are you coming?